Hello, friends. It's Emily with Emily T. Astrology. Welcome to Hermes Speaks. This is your weekly astro check-in where we explore the current quality of time and we listen to Hermes, Mercury, our messenger god, the traditional planet of astrology. We listen to Hermes speak through the written word and bibliomancy, through story and conversation. This week, June 10th through the 13th, is all about Venus. During the next 7 days, our goddess of love, beauty, tastes, preferences, and relationships will enter the sign of Leo, the sign of the sun, and she will immediately apply to contact with the outer planets Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Today, we're going to dive into the archetype of Venus in this sign of Leo. What does she want? What does she desire in this sign of the sun, this sign of the warmth and heat of the summer? And of course, we will bring in some bibliomancy for a little added mercurial oracular guidance. Let's start with the particulars, as we always do. Venus enters the sign of Leo on the 13th of June, and she will be there through the 9th of July. This week in particular, on the 15th, Venus will form a sextile to Uranus in Gemini. On the 16th, she forms a trine to Neptune in Aries. And even though we're skipping into our next week's worth of material, on the 17th, she forms an opposition to Pluto in Aquarius. Now, for my purposes here today, I am not going to be breaking down these transits that Venus makes because my beautiful and brilliant friend, Kelsey Faith Wells, and I have just recorded an episode where we do, in fact, break down these 3 transits, Venus in Leo to Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, and that will air on the Nightlight Astrology channel on Tuesday, the 16th of June. So if you want a deep dive into these 3 transits that Venus will make this week to the outer planets, head on over to Nightlight Astrology on June 16th or after. And once that episode is live, I will come back here and pop the link for it into the comments section of this video. Highly recommend going to check that talk out. I thoroughly enjoyed having that conversation with Kelsey. She's an excellent astrologer and has become a dear friend of mine. But as I said, for our purposes today, we're looking at Venus in the sign of Leo. What does she want? How does she express herself? So let's break it down bit by bit, talking about Venus first. Venus is the goddess of love, relationships, beauty, tastes, preferences, sisters, specifically women in general, how we relate to things, what we dislike, what we love, what attracts us, what we are attracted to. Then we need to talk about the sign of Leo itself. First and foremost, Leo is a masculine or diurnal or yang sign, which means that its natural tendency is to be action-oriented, outwardly expressive, and fast-moving. It is a solid or fixed sign, which means that it falls in the middle of the season. The summer season here in the northern hemisphere, of course the winter in the southern hemisphere, and that means that its main qualitative type of expression is in sustainment. It is holding the energy of the season, sustaining it, keeping it nourished, keeping it going, keeping it stable. And it is a fire sign, which means it is inspired and inspiring. It is passionate. It is, again, fast-paced, expressive, and instinctual. So we put these things together before we even begin to talk about the planets that are associated with the sign of Leo, and we have a sign that is expressive, action-oriented, inspired, instinctual, has the wherewithal, the follow-through to sustain its energy, to keep it nourished, to keep it going. I think of Leo very much as a beach bonfire. It's loud, it's big, it's fiery, it's warm, it is contained, and it is allowing for community to come around to feel its warmth. Everybody just feels, well, I don't know, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people when they're with their friends on the beach around a bonfire at night, it's just such a great warm feeling. That's how I think of Leo, is as a beach bonfire. And then we bring in the planets that are associated with the sign of Leo. First and foremost, the sun. The sun is at home in the sign of Leo. It rules it by domicile. And what do we know of the sun? It is our vital force. It is the unchanging ideal image that our soul strives toward in this life. It is our ambition. In a classical sense, when we think of the two luminaries, the two lights in the sky, the sun and the sun is the one, the moon is the many. So there is an unchanging ideal image within the sun that is warm, that is vital. None of us would be alive here without the warmth and the heat of the sun, right? It is our vital force. So we have that element added in here when we think about the sign of Leo, which means it is sovereign. Leo is associated with kings and queens and rulership. The sun being that singular image, that singular ambition, the plot line towards which we are striving. So that imparts on the sign of Leo a sense of singularity, of leadership, of brightness, of boldness, of vitality, of warmth, of heat, right? Our leaders ideally are those that are warm and generous and that lead with sovereignty that is has integrity, has value, has warmth, has generosity, right? And the other planet that we associate with the sign of Leo is Jupiter, and that is through triplicity. And Jupiter is a sign of truth with a capital T, of unification, cohesion, of growth and expansion, and of justice. Again, in the ideal sense, Jupiter was associated with the law, but not in a punitive way, in an ideal way. So we put Jupiter and the sun together, and we have this idealized image of leadership, of sovereignty, of authenticity, of heat and warmth, vitality, of looking towards growing ourselves, expanding ourselves in our hearts, in the heart-centeredness, the centeredness because the sun is that singular central figure, right? So we put this all together, and Leo becomes a sign that is warm, ideally generous, giving, has leadership capabilities. There's a singularity or an authenticity about it. It is fast moving. It is expressive. It has the staying power to sustain and to maintain the energy of the heat of the summer season. It is magnanimous. It is queenly, kingly. It is expressive and action-oriented, right? So we're getting kind of an idea of the sign of Leo itself. All right, so then we add Venus back in here. What does Venus in this sign with all of these characteristics, diurnal, fixed, fire, sun and Jupiter ruled sign of Leo, what does our goddess of love and tastes and preferences want in this sign? She wants brash, bold, performative, but authentic and heart-centered expressions of love. She wants to be seen. She wants to be validated and praised, but authentically so, not with hollow or I'm thinking of like simpering sycophants. She does not want that. She wants authenticity. She wants warmth. She wants bright colors. She wants gold jewelry, right? Venus wants to shine. She wants to say something. She wants to be seen. She wants to see others. She wants everyone to shine and have brightness and boldness. That's that coming together around the bonfire feeling, right? On the shadow side, Venus here can maybe be a little bit too seeking of and desirous of external praise. I would posit that perhaps when we get into that place where we're really needing to be praised and receive compliments and be seen with outside validation, it might be coming from a place of deep down some insecurity. So do watch for that. There can be a little bit of a egocentrism or too much dependence on that need for external validation, the need to be seen and praised and constantly puffed up with compliments and all of that. So do watch for that. But on the whole, Venus just wants to be seen, loved. She wants to shine. She wants to be bold. She wants to have warm, generous expressions of idealized beauty that is larger than life, that is expressive and action-oriented, that is unafraid. I'm sure some of you remember that in 2023, a few years ago, we had a retrograde. Venus went retrograde in the sign of Leo. And what was one of the most popular movies that summer? Barbie. Barbie was extremely popular the summer of 2023. It came out, I think, actually right around when Venus stationed retrograde, if I'm remembering correctly, in the sign of Leo. And what was everyone wearing that summer? That bold, bright Barbie pink was the color of the summer. These are very Venus and Leo signatures. Boldness, brightness, loudness, shining with heat, warmth, and vitality, right? So Venus and Leo is fun, is expressive, is perhaps a little, requiring some external praise and needing to be overly complimented. But on the whole, fun, bold, beautiful, bright, warm, generous, expressive when Venus is in the sign of Leo. I say have fun. I say get in the mood with Venus in Leo. Why not, right? So now we have come to the part of the show where I bring in those added mercurial insights through bibliomancy. And this week I decided to pull from, mostly because of the colors. Can you see why? I decided to pull from Loose Change by Sara Davidson. The subtitle there, 3 Women of the 60s. Okay, so I just thought about Venus and Leo, and I opened the book and read this. After a year had passed, and then another year, Tasha and Kenny wanted to go all the way. Her parents had told her sex was a beautiful experience to share with someone you loved, as long as you were careful not to get pregnant. The problem was finding a proper place. The answer seemed to come on New Year's Eve of 1960, when Beth's parents flew to Mexico for the holidays, and Beth offered Tasha and Kenny their guest house. On the afternoon of New Year's Eve, Tasha took a long bath in replique oil. She selected her sexiest outfit, a tight-fitting black straight skirt, a black sweater with a string of turquoise donkey beads to accentuate her eyes. This sounds so much like Venus and Leo. I love it. Kenny borrowed money to buy champagne and a rubber, but what he purchased, Tasha recalls, was not a thin one that felt like skin, but a thick one made of material like dishwashing gloves. They drove to the guest house in Benedict Canyon, but found it was dingy and cold. They took blankets from the back of Kenny's car, crawled under them, and unable to stop shivering, opened the champagne. Something was wrong. The champagne made them high and a little sick. They kept stalling, and when they did get down to petting, it was stiff. By the time Kenny got around to fussing with the rubber, there was no possibility it would work. Okay, so I have to admit, when I first read this, I was a little surprised. I felt like, well, this doesn't feel like Venus and Leo. This feels like like a wet blanket, right? And then I thought about it, and I think it's pretty simple, actually. Nothing kills Venus and Leo's mood more than contrivance, right? Venus wants authentic desire. She wants things that, in Leo, she wants things that feel true and real. There's that Jupiter by triplicity, the rulership of Jupiter here. She wants things that feel true and honest and authentic. She wants to be able to express her desires truly as they are. The heart wants what it wants. And there's nothing more dampening or wet blankety to desire than trying to should on it, right? Trying to make it fit into a contrived box of prescribed notions of what sexy is supposed to be. So I think that's pretty simple. I don't need to say much. Enjoy this period of time while Venus is in Leo. Let your light shine. Let your heart want what it wants. Go after with boldness and authenticity and true, honest desire what you want. And don't kill the mood by shoulding on it. Right? That's what I got for you. I hope this was enjoyable. I hope you enjoy the warmth of Venus in Leo. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, do all the things. I so appreciate you being here and taking the time with me. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time. Mwah!